Oh.
But also, so
Yeah.
Yes, and so then. Here,
See, if I could start a coffee IV and just have it running about 20 minutes before I got out of bed, I'd be great. Yeah, that's the first thing I do in the morning is coffee. I used to. There's no feedback. I have plenty about that. Out of LCC, which is our community college, it's two courses, or it used to be, now they added on some more. But I was training, I was training 13, 14 years ago. And
Call to order again. Hold on just a second. This is really tricky. It's better with two screens. But I have to go to share screen. Show the screen that has this on it. It has all this mess on it. Then click on, let's see, this screen here. I'll go over here. I'll go from beginning.
I know 45 minutes is a lot for this. I know something else must be doing it. I don't know what the breakfast.
I think
yeah,
it's
smarter than your average.
like 8:15 or something like that.
So,
Here,
No.
wait.
well,
Watch this. Make it up whenever you're ready.
okay, all right. We're just talking about, I don't have a full 45 minutes to fill this.
It's 8:30 is breakfast.
Okay.
When's breakfast? 8:30?
Oh,
We'll have plenty of time. Well, whenever you're ready, just go through.
we did. Not that they care. They can't.
Well, good morning. Good morning.
It works good, huh?
Yeah, it works well. I have 45 minutes to fill and about 15 minutes max on my program. So we can leisurely get started and then wait for breakfast to be served, I think at 8:30. But this morning, we're going to have a memorial service for the Lions of Wyoming who passed in the last year. We're here to pay our respects to our sister and brother Lions. When a loved one or a friend passes, we feel a profound sense of loss and emptiness we know can never be filled again. We're saddened and we grieve for the departed, but we're heartened by the cherished memories that they leave. But knowing them, we may become better human beings ourselves. So it is with our fellow Lions who have passed from us. We mourn them and we will miss them dearly, but they left something very precious behind. Their legacy of unswerving commitment to the ideals of Lionism, unselfish service to the people in need, and loyal and devoted fellowship with all other members of the Lions family. I'd like to thank the clubs around the state who sent information. Some people sent 3 pages, some people sent 1 paragraph. And I know that there's at least one other Lion, a former Lion who passed this last year, but he had already dropped his membership when he passed away. That was Lion Lynn Evans for Cheyenne. Donald Cale of Gillette, Emma Durfee of Lander, Mike Enzi of Gillette, Chuck Lyons of Pine Bluffs, Albert Boots Nelson from Jackson Hole, Rodney Paddock from Casper Mountain, Gary Rice from Tinsley Hyattville, Roy Scott from the Story Lions Club, Robert Tappan from the Lander Lions Club, and Wally Trembeth from the Tinsley Hyattville Lions Club. Donald Cale was a member of the Gillette Noon Lions Club, a member of Lions for 51 years. He was born in Gillette in 1933 and served in the U.S. Navy from 1955 through 58. He owned Donald G. Cale Public Accounting. He was a member of many community organizations and committees, including Lions. He was married to Donna Ray, and together they had 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 15 great-grandchildren. Emma Durfee, from the Lander Lions Club, a Lion for 33 years. She was born in Terry, Montana in 1937, was a homemaker, sang in the church choir at First Baptist Church, volunteered in the hospital and schools. She was married to Lion Jerry Durfee, and together they had 3 children and many grandkids. Lion Mike Enzi from the Gillette Noon Lions Club, a Lion for 51 years. He was born in Bremerton, Washington. He was a prolific reader who wrote a book report for every book he read. He attended church wherever he was in the world. I can say that when he would come to Wyoming on weekends, often I'd look up in my church choir loft position and see Senator Enzi out in the congregation. In Gillette, he opened up the Enzi Shoe Store. He was an Eagle Scout, an Air National Guard veteran, a mayor, a legislator, and a U.S. Senator. He and his wife Diana had 3 children and 4 great-grandchildren. Lion Chuck Lyons. He'd find me if I said Lyons. He was the tail twister. He was a member of the Pine Bluffs Lions Club for 39 years. He was born in Carpenter, Wyoming. Served in the U.S. Navy from 1954 to 1977. He served in Astoria, Oregon, San Diego, California, in Japan, in Antarctica, in Vietnam, and in Spain. He was a member of the Pine Bluffs Volunteer Fire Department, 2-time president of the Pine Bluffs Lions Club. He was a major contributor of designing and building the club's project, which was building a miniature golf course for Pine Bluffs. He was the main cook at a lot of the Pine Bluffs Lions functions. He played Santa Claus for over 25 years for the town. He was married to Marietta, and together they had 4 children, 5 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Albert Boots Nelson from Jackson Hole, a Lion for 47 years. He was born in Jackson, served in the U.S. Army as a ski and outdoor survivor instructor. He founded the Nelson Engineering Company that was based in Rock Springs and Green River and then in Jackson. He assisted with the building of the radar system that protected the United States during the Cold War. He designed Jackson's first modern water system. He helped create the first subdivision in Teton Village. He was inducted into the University of Wyoming College of Engineering's Hall of Fame in 2010. He was married to his wife, Kat. Rodney Paddock from the Casper Mountain Lions Club, a Lion for 23 years. He was born in Casper, grew up in Gillette. He became totally blind at the age of 20 due to complications from type 1 diabetes. He earned a BA degree in human resources and a master's degree in special education. He loved rebuilding classic cars and motorcycles. He had a royal blue mint condition 1972 Chevelle SS 454, which was his baby. But he received 2 kidney transplants. He donated his Chevelle to the Casper Mountain Lions for a fundraiser for his medical conditions and expenses. The only time the Lions remember him not having a smile on his face when he had to transfer the title to that car. He served as the president of the Casper Mountain Lions for 2 years back to back during the pandemic season. He devoted a lot of his time in maintaining the Lee McHugh Braille Trail on Casper Mountain, adjacent to the Allen H. Stewart Lions Camp. He inspected all of the Braille signs for correctness and readability. He and his wife Tony have 2 children and 1 grandchild. Gary Rice from the Tinsley Hyattville Lions Club. He was a Lion for 38 years. He was born in Moreland and raised on a ranch east of Tinsley. He was active in the Wyoming Stock Growers Association, the Washington County Planning Commission, the Tinsley Rodeo Association, where he and his brother were pickup men for rodeos. He testified in Washington, D.C., representing ranchers and grazing permittees from across the state. His Rice Ranch, incorporated in 1914, received the Wyoming Centennial Ranch Award in 2017. Roy Scott from the Story Lions Club, a Lion for 30 years. He was born in Sheridan, received a BS degree in aeronautical engineering from the University of Colorado. He worked for Douglas Aircraft at Vandenberg Air Force Base, conducting launches for the Thor missile testing program. He was responsible for many classified satellite launches and testing of ballistic missiles and satellite defense. He worked on the 3rd stage of the Apollo missile system. He worked on Skylab, America's first space station. And he was in part of the preliminary design of the space shuttle program. When he retired from that, he moved to Story and refurbished a cabin. He was an accomplished outdoorsman and spent as much time as he could in the mountains. He was survived by his wife, Leonora, 3 sons, 4 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. Robert Tappan from the Lander Lions Club, a Lion for 26 years. He was born in Orange, New Jersey, earned a BS in Business Administration from the University of New Hampshire, an MBA in Western New England College, and completed various doctoral coursework. He had a commission in the U.S. Air Force, serving on a B-52 as a navigator and electronic warfare officer. He was a key member of airborne route missions protecting North America. He served in Texas, Maine, Georgia, and Massachusetts. He retired as a lieutenant colonel after 186 combat missions flying from Guam, Thailand, and Okinawa during the Vietnam War. He received 9 air medals and the Distinguished Flying Cross. After he retired from the Air Force, he moved to Oregon as a stock and securities broker. During his second retirement, he lived in Lander. He was an avid master gardener. He spent 3 years on the Lander City Council. He was married to his wife Ellie, and together they have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Wally Trembeth from the 10 Sleep Hyattville Lions Club, a Lion for 20 years. He was born in Casper. He had his wife Rebecca and one son. He died in Tampa, Florida last October. That 10 people who have shown here have an average membership of Lions of close to 35 years apiece. The memory of these Lions who walked with us in service fills us with an inner contentment, bringing about peace which affects every sector of our lives. They've also provided us with a challenge to continue our high standards and dedication to the needs of others. Through their commitment, courage, and perseverance, they've shown us the way. Let us continue along this noble path. The Lions whom we pay homage today have exemplified the humanitarian ideals of Lionism. They gave unselfishly on behalf of others, and what they achieved shall forever stand as personal monuments to their integrity and selfless dedication to the well-being of humanity. Let's take a moment. And we sorry. Keep their families.
Sorry. We're good. Thanks for coming. I thought I was going to take up reading where he left off. Let's take a moment and just have a little silent prayer for these Lions that left us this past year. I know some of you knew them personally. I know that you'll listen dearly, but even said they'll set the example for us. Let's pray. Thank you.
And that's the end of my presentation. I guess breakfast is at 8:30. So, and Ms. Robin, you have something you'd like to do. I will say that there's a box up here for your name badges to recycle them when you're finished.
Good morning. Morning. Great job, Dean. And thank y'all for coming in. Sorry if I get a little teary-eyed. You know, I lost a lion yesterday, so still a little bit fresh. I want to thank y'all for coming. It's been a fabulous convention. And I just want to know if there's anybody here who has anything they want to contribute for whatever reason to what we've done this weekend. Please feel free.
I wonder if there's people here who knew some of the folks in the
Yes.
presentation who'd like to share a story.
I know Bob and Diane, the only one. Would y'all care to share a story?
Like you? I'll bring it back to you.
Brother Chuck is the one that got me and started with the Lions Club. We served on the fire department together. I was chief and he was assistant chief for a while.
And the youngest brother, tell the oldest brother what to do.
Yes. So once. Well, Chuck was in the Navy. He'd been all over the country, the world. He'd been I can't remember now, Spain, I think it was. And, he was in he was the chief storekeeper. Yeah, and he was sitting in the officers club one day, and him and 3 or 4 other guys were talking, and somebody asked Chuck where he was going next, and he says, I have no idea. He says, I just have to wait until they tell me where I'm going. There was an admiral overheard this, and he come up and introduced himself to 4 or 5 guys that were there. He asked Chuck, he says, you don't know where you're going? Chuck says, no, they haven't told me yet. He said, well, I'm telling you, you're going with me. That was his stench this term when he went to Antarctica and served in Operation Leadership. He was the storekeeper down there. He said, they spent so much time down there, and he said, then they fly him up to Australia. And the boy says, you talk about a difference in cultures. He got back from Antarctica, went back to Spain, and served over there in Rhodes, Spain for about 4 years. My folks went over and took the trip with him. They were going to see Europe. Mom was telling me, she says, I asked her, I said, how'd you enjoy France? And she said, well, France was nice, but Paris wasn't worth a name. They were going to go to the Eiffel Tower. And right around the Eiffel Tower, just before you get there, is a roundabout. They could not get off the roundabout. She said, we saw the Eiffel Tower about 10 times. And she said, your dad finally said, let's get the heck out of here. No, he didn't say it that way. I said. So, there's some good memories with Chuck.
Did any of you guys from Riverton know about that? No? Just think we knew it. Yeah. Craig, you knew Senator Enzi, right?
I first get that.
I know, I saved him for last because I knew it'd last a long time.
We appreciate that.
Can I go get the coffee first?
No.
When I first came to Gillette, Wyoming, way back in 1983, I think I met Mike Enzi for the first time when he's asking around the shoe store. And of course, I stayed in kind of contact with the family over the years, until I became senator, because he was one heck of a leader, even for the community of Gillette. I mean, for being the mayor and all the things that, that they had done. And in fact, here, I think it was about a month or a month and a half ago, there was a street in Gillette that had been, what they call Gurley Overpass, where it goes from one side of the tracks to the other. And they're going to now rename that Gurley Overpass the NZ Memorial Drive, because for what he has done for the community. Mike was a super fellow. I mean, I saw, the pictures that I have of Mike, that when I met and talked to the guy all the time, we always had our picture page, and people just kind of recognized both Mike and I, because, Mike and I got along rather well together for being a senator. He was a people person. And number two, that if Ryan Gary was to meet with Mike, and Gary asked him a question, and Mike would say, just hold on a second here. I'll get right back with you, because for the simple reason, I wanna find the true answer to this. And he would contact the people, just like he did with me if I had certain questions. This man had a philosophy of making sure he always got back to the people. And I think that was the biggest impression of Mike through the community, you know. I believe now half the time now, Diana lives in Gillette, and she comes down here to Cheyenne, where there are 3 kids right out here in Cheyenne, I believe now, Brad and Emily and, I forgot the other daughter's name. But I think all 3 of them live right down here in Cheyenne right now, so Diana kind of travels back and forth. So she was a super lady, and Mike was a super guy, so.
John, you used to
Mike Gensley was a lion. So it's, so you're always little things that are great about them, but they were lions. When I was on the board, they started doing what they called Lions Day in Washington DC, and the PR people for Lions, they set up appointments with all of our senators and representatives, and they wanted, me to go visit our Wyoming delegation, and they were gonna send all these people from the PR company with me. And I said, you don't need that. I'll just go to Senator Enzi's office. He's a lion. And then at that time, Cynthia Thomas was in the House. Her husband contributed money to my campaign to be an international director. And John Braswell, he's not a lion, but he knows our camp, and he's taking care of a lot of our kids and stuff, so I went by myself to go visit my delegation. But I learned at the time was that in Congress, there's over 100 lions who are in Congress, and they actually get together, and they still belong to their home clubs, but they get together and do lion stuff there in Washington DC. Those are the kind of things you never hear on the news, because it's good news instead of all the kind of stuff that the news media thinks it was to be. So, for the 2017, we were in this building and did the 100th anniversary for Lions Clubs, and Gillette Club bought a Melvin Jones, which you'd think after he was 51 years a Lion, that maybe he had gotten one before, but he didn't. He got in line with his club when we were passing out the plaques, and came across the stage and received his Melvin Jones, and was very proud of it. And, so when he showed up for the convention, people like me, dressed like this or have a tie on. He walked in, he had a plaid shirt on, his Lions vest, all these pants. He took one look at me, and he said, I thought this was a Lions convention. I have to tell a story about Chuck and his dedication to Lions. And our club.
stand over here so I can get you on the camera.
Our club came up with a wonderful idea that we could raise a bunch of money by buying a car and raffling it off. And Chuck invited us down to Pine Bluffs on trail days to set up down there. And so we were busy selling tickets for the car. And the thing that the Lions Club does in trail days is they do hamburgers and had their grill, and they were cooking like crazy. So all the Lions down there were just busy as all get out. And all of a sudden there was sirens and an ambulance showed up. And the next thing I knew, they were hauling Chuck off. I thought, this is the last time I'm going to see this guy. And because all the excitement. And I had no idea what his incident was, but that wasn't the end of Chuck. He was back at it after that. So, anyhow, truly Lions.
I just thought of a story of Senator Enzi, and I know what kind of spent a lot of time with him, but one of the jobs that I had as an educator was to work in a program called Starbase Academy. We worked with fifth graders. And for several years, we had an essay contest, and the winning kids got to go back to Washington, D.C., and one of the treats, of course, was to visit our delegation. We took 3 kids to Senator Enzi's office. And I don't know if some of you have been to his office. I think it must be as big as half this room. It's a huge room. But all around the room on tables, he had set up displays of inventions that had been patented and invented by Wyoming people. And there was probably a dozen or more of them. And one of them, I remember him telling me about, I don't know why especially, but It was apparently a device that was used in first aid on the battlefield for sucking chest wounds. And it would, it would plug that hole so that the person would continue to be able to breathe. But he was so tender and so accepting of the kids and talked to them, like they were his grandkids. And I just was very impressed with the way that he dealt with the kids. And of course, like many of you have seen him appear in different kinds of situations. And as Craig said, he was really a people kind of a person. He was very, very critically important to him that he not tell you something that was inaccurate. Lynn Evans, we didn't have on our program, but he was a member of the Moon Club, wasn't he, Bud?
He was, but I have no details on how long he was alive.
I knew Lynn, he was a Methodist minister. And for a while was what in Methodism you're a district superintendent, which means you might be kind of the intermediate, the middle management between the bishop and the churches of Wyoming, for instance. And he had a twin sister. And she served as his administrative assistant for the time when he was district superintendent. Gentle man, but very, very thoughtful and very spiritual guy. So,
Motorcycle rider.
and a motorcycle rider. That's right. Did you know him?
A little bit.
Yeah. Anybody else have stories of that share? Yeah, go for it.
One more on Mike, and just 1 year ago, I lost my brother and his wife. Loved each other. I've known Mike through the Lions, of course. He was out of office at that time, but he still had a staff at times. But what he sent to me was a handwritten letter expressing condolences to me and my family. That's the kind of a guy he was. He could have, had a staff do it. Gary Rice from the Penn State Hyattville Lions Club. If you go back in the history of the Penn State Hyattville Lions Club, and for the benefit of our international director, Penn State and Hyattville are two separate communities, just a few miles apart. So they have a meeting in Penn State one time in the month, and they go to Hyattville the next time in the month. And it's a rather treacherous road getting back and forth to each other. So that club is very successful that way. But the first time Penn State folded many, many, many years ago, then there was a second attempt, and it was folded again. I had a connection with Penn State because that time I was coaching and teaching in Meeteetse, Wyoming, and my conference opponent was Penn State. We were like, avid against each other all the time. But I had developed sort of a community relationship with them from that connection through teaching and coaching. So the next time we went in, I was going to be a guiding lion. I talked to some of the people in Penn State that if you want to move her, and the big thing, go and talk to Gary Rice and his brother Ray. So I had a private meeting with them, and they're the ones, Gary and Ray Rice, were the ones who really got that club going. It still exists today. Now they're 40 years old for the third time. It was to those two guys that really made it happen. So you have to find sometimes the movers in the community to make it happen. And I was just in Tensley on the challenge program, and they're committed. They're committed. You were there that night, Jim, right?
Yep.
They're committed. That little tiny club gave $1,000. They weren't going to do just a pledge over a period of time. Got a check from $1,000, and they said there'll be more next year. Great connections, huh? Oh.
I just wanted to make a comment, but when seeing Wally's picture at the 10 Sleep, the smile he had, that's what was there. But my comment is that, what kind of influence Lions clubs have, and it's because of individuals, and how they fit in the community. But you all know what I drive. Between 10 Sleep and Orland, I got pulled over. And I hadn't been paying attention, so I handed all my credentials to the highway patrolman, and I told him that whatever he thought I was doing, I probably was. And he said, well, what are you doing here? You're from Cheyenne. I said, I was at the 10 Sleep Lions Club meeting, and I'm going back to Orland to at a motel. He says, those Lions do so much, and they're so good. Handed me my stuff back and said, be careful, there was some deer on the road 7 miles down.
Might have to use that one.
Anybody else? Thanks for sharing. I think that, I don't know how you feel. I feel like this has been really more than emotional and moving way to remember our lives and just have a powerful interview today. Thanks, Dean, for a good presentation. Thank you all for sharing.
So I'm gonna lighten this up and move on with new business. During the day yesterday, we encouraged you to fill out questionnaires about the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation. And we had a stack of applications like this. Out of the 2 or 3 that were there, is that we had a drawing, and we will be sending $150 to the Sheridan Sundowner Club for the purpose of using eyeglasses or somebody didn't know what doctor, something related to eyes.
You share it, people, it's $150 towards a challenge.
Wait after in September, we get done with the bike ride.
I guess we're footloose and fancy free until breakfast is served. Or-
Breakfast at the labor.
Oh, did I see?
I can go see if they're ready.
Or you want the microphone back? You can't stand that.
I have a question. Jim, do you have the results of voting? Yeah. You wanna give those? No?
I'm gonna do just like you guys did yesterday. You know, we kept saying, how much money did we make? Not now, not now, we're gonna tell you later. So we waited all day for the results. So I tell you what, when you get ready to leave here and go home, I'll tell you who won.
Well, I suspect it was Bonnie.
Just get out of my way.
Well, I believe that 1201.
Just sit there and listen, because I'm gonna give it to you the way it came out. I must say, I was a little bit, we had 29 people vote. And we sent out, I think, 100 possibility delegates. We had 100 possible delegates for the convention. At any rate, 29 people voted, and in a very closely contested contest, Ryan Lee McDonald has been elected as our district governor for 23-24. So congratulations, Lee. We were talking to Diane about Gary being our last retread. Well, we have one more coming after Gary, and that's Lee. This will be his second time around. So thank you, Lee. Just barely.
There.
We did have another one, though, that was possibly going to run this year, and John said, well, it doesn't go into effect until the 1st of July, so technically he could have run. He chose not to. He was a former district governor from Nebraska. For 1st/2nd vice district governor, another highly contested contest, mine, Bonnie Harrison, has been elected. Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Bank Board. This one wasn't quite so highly contested. We only had one contestant, one candidate. So Brian Ballard, hope you serve in the term.
Thank you very much.
And this one was the one, because the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute Foundation Board, we had no candidates. And then we had another guy by the name of Craig Thompson who got some votes. But no candidate got 27 votes, and Craig got 2. So we did call no candidate, and he declined and said thank you, but it was a lady. So at any rate, Ryan Craig, you received 2 votes for this position. Now, it was a write-in vote, and you are not, what do I want to say, committed to that, but you need to make a decision and talk with the people and decide you possibly would like to have that position, because you're the only one that got votes.
Yes.
So you don't have to make a decision this instant, but you might want to let John know what you think.
He's agreeable to anything.
Hey, moving right along to item number 5 was the Wyoming State Convention host and site for 2024. This one was, we did have two cities actually receive votes. And Mindy, you guys got 3 votes. So while that may not have won this particular vote for you, it puts you in position for 2025 to come back, run a real campaign. We'll have a little more open hospitality room and you can really go for it. Well, I'm
I
saying
remember
for-
how much it costs to run a hospitality room, I don't know.
Well, talk to Lion Gary Road because he's really good at raising money for hospitality rooms.
Boy, is he ever.
And so anyway, and by the way, if you would like some beverages to take home with you that have not been opened yet, see me right after the meeting because I have a few left out there. And I can't drink all that maybe by next year, so maybe we can save it. Anyway, Rollins received 20 votes. So
Might be a way to recoup some of the convention expenses with that leftover booze. Something unopened.
you mean if I sell it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Would you sell those to a lion? Now, come on.
I was gonna
Dad.
give it away, but if you'd like to buy some,
Do you want to make a donation?
I don't, when I make a donation, I don't.
Right, here you
It's
go.
gonna be sold.
Is that how you do it?
The Ryan
Ryan,
Roger
International
Reed,
Director? Ask me to make a
I would
donation.
call it a donation.
Big Ryan Roger was going to go back to this club and affirm the fact that they may like to do the convention, so even though they did have the most write-in votes, until such time as they submit an application and are approved, they won't actually be officially that site, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. And the last thing was to put the Allen Stewart Lions Camp being the Signature Project, actually put that into the constitutional bylaws, and that did pass. We did have 2 people vote against that, so I'm not sure exactly why, but anyway, it'll be in the Constitution, and there would have been a place, after I got that written up and got to reading it, I thought there was a place I actually probably could have put it in there, but this place officially, I never wrote it into the constitutional bylaws. Along with the changes that were made with the the camp and the foundation. And as I said, what goes into our constitution is what they give us. So we'll talk with them and we'll see exactly what they want it to be in the constitution to describe what it is we have now has. Any questions on the election? This is just a word, it is not too late to think about next year. So if you are somebody who is qualified to be district governor, or you're not quite qualified, but if you're a zone chairman this year, you would be qualified. Dr. Ryan Gary, I'm sure he's probably got a few vacancies yet that he would love to fill. And also, there's other positions available, so please, you're all serving at one level or another. In fact, some of you are wearing a lot of hats. And if you've only got one hat, and you've got room for another one, please feel free to step up. If you're not wearing any hats, step up and say, hey, I'd like to do this. Anyway, that's my official convention report. You're
Are you saying that they can borrow your chauffeur hat?
I didn't get a
I
chauffeur
know,
hat.
your
Somebody
bowler
gave me a
hat.
bowler hat.
A bowler hat.
However, there was one chauffeur hat left in the office last night. Is that
I
yours?
think I left it, yes.
I may have
Oh my,
saved it. I
how
wouldn't-
unappreciative.
I know, I just got caught up in the evening, and
I think I have it, Dave. I
If
packed
you don't,
all boxes
I'll
in
live.
already last night. So.
but I kind of like the looks of that.
Yeah, it looked pretty good.
District Governor Robbins, may I make a motion?
What's your motion?
I move that the ballots be destroyed. It is a procedure that we have to follow.
How are you gonna destroy all those pixels?
We have, it's a procedure.
There were
How are you
only
gonna destroy all the pixels?
the electronic voting.
Right.
Right.
There's a-
We can do it.
I'm not gonna argue that point, I just have to get with you.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes. Out of the 29 ballots that were cast, 9 of them were done electronically. The others, for one reason or another, some people couldn't get in, and I was one of those. I sat there and Brian tried to sign me in, but Dave said it was down for a little bit.
Well, what we figured out was that Mary and Pam
Yeah.
turned their credentials in Saturday morning.
Okay,
So they weren't on the
Yeah.
list.
yes.
We did it late,
We-
in fact,
yeah, late
real
Friday night.
early Saturday morning.
So,
Okay.
really, for those people that did use it, they said it was slick, so we're gonna try and continue doing that. We'll probably always retain the paper option because some people just can't.
Okay, all in favor of destroying the ballots, and you can choose how you choose to destroy them, you can burn them or shred them.
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed? Okay, it passes. Destroy those ballots, Tim.
Somebody might show up with a bunch of different ballots tomorrow.
They might-
The only way it's up to you.
There were no any chance of any of the ballots.
No hanging chance, that's wonderful.
By the way,
Yes.
Ben Winkes's tail twisting thing, he had to pay an extra $100, so it came out to $438.
All right. That deserves a roar. Roar.
The legend's going, what is that about?
Exactly. Anything else?
I would like to mention the goose chase,
Yes,
the top prize winner is Gary Rutherford. But we only had 17 people registered for the goose chase, so we got $170 for it.
And I will donate that. So, we'll put it in a hat and decide who will get that registration fee for the next year.
Oh,
well, I have a question, Gary. And didn't you win a 50-50?
I didn't think you made that size of a gun.
Now, you donate the goose chase money.
I have to get home and that's 40 miles, so I might be able to fill up my gas tank. But you know, I have this wood shop and the wood is expensive, so.
Oh, wham, wham, wham.
yeah, Lion Robin, he did donate several items that he made in his wood shop for the auction, so.
I know, but, he's just warning. So, I want to thank y'all. Yeah, this has been a wonderful convention. And, Jim, Gary, the rest of y'all, it's too early for me to remember names. You know that I'm not a morning person. And Diane, thank you for making our convention so great. Say that again.
You too, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to say something.
Uh-oh.
You guys all know the Cody Lions. After, when Robin came to our club, she did really well there. She was the only girl there, but she did well.
But Neil,
Yeah. So here's the thing. At the end of our meetings, we always tell jokes. And Robin got up and told a joke that made our guys in our club look like choir boys. So if you ever get her to tell that joke, it's one hell of a joke.
Now, do y'all want to hear the joke?
I heard it yesterday.
It's pretty early in the morning. Let me see if I can do it, and then we'll eat breakfast. Good. Pardon me?
They started moving out things.
Okay, well, I'll tell it, and then we'll eat. Y'all can laugh or cry or whatever. Do you want me to tell it, Neil?
Yeah.
Okay. There was this dude named Archibald Stolbrook, and he lived with his daddy in Alabama. and they moved to New York. And you know how the education system is, Diane, in Alabama, it's pretty backward. So they put him in this class to catch up, do some remedial learning. So the first day, the teacher told him, okay, Archibald, in order to learn our phonics, what you do is when I call your name, you say your name, then you spell the first syllable and say it, spell the second syllable and say it, and you build your name. And she said, I'll ask Willie Lee Robinson to do it for you first. So Willie Lee gets up there and he goes, Willie Lee Robinson, W-I-L-L-L-I-E, Lee, Willie, L-E-U-L-I-E, Willie, R-O-B, Robin, 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 I-N-N, Robin, Lee, Robin, 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 Willie, Robin. S-O-N, Son Robinson, Lee Robinson. Wiley Robinson, Willie Robinson, Willie Lee Robinson. Archibald was about to mess his pants. And the teacher says, now Archibald, you try it. So Archibald gets up there and he goes, Archibald Soulbrook. Joe, I'm trying to imitate your accent. A-R-C-H, arch, your arch, B-A-L-D, your ball, your eyeball, your arch eyeball. A-S-S, your ass, your bald ass, your eyeball ass, your arch eyeball ass. H-O, your hole, your asshole, your bald asshole, your eyeball asshole, your arch eyeball asshole. B-R-O-K-E, you broke, your hole broke, your asshole broke, your bald asshole broke, your eyeball asshole broke, your arch eyeball asshole broke. Archibald is so broke, and the teacher said, Archibald, from now on you just say present. That's the joke that brought the Cody Lions Club down, and it was told by a woman. Y'all have a great breakfast.
I just hope I don't get called this year, this part, but
No,
Yeah.
my daughter's kindergarten teacher, this last week, she said, "Take care." Also, she grew up there, it's still out.
good to see you too. You take care of your dog. Bye. I'm gonna postpone Lisa. Lisa has to knows house. Wash my mouth out, eat the thing. Nobody indicated that we could go to the next
Don't make that one more.
I learned it when I was 18. I learned it and then I practiced in the shower. A lot of work. Wow. A couple of times it hurts so bad. There you go.